The new department director laughed at me and said, "You're no longer needed because I've coached a young, highly educated person. For 10 years, I have put forth a lot of effort in this organization. Is my lack of a high degree the reason I'm getting fired?" I get it. In the middle of my disappointment, my business colleague said, "I'll take him under my wing if he's getting fired." She then led me to a location where someone appeared. Long time no see, naughty boy. My name is Kenny. After graduating from high school, I worked for a corporation. I decided to graduate from high school because of a particular individual. Kenny is kind. Aki, what did you say? Yay, it's just not fun with Kenny around. I struggled in my club activities in high school, which made going to class difficult for a while. I also didn't have a university I wanted to go at the time because I didn't have any career goals, and I frequently clashed with my parents about it. You are our kid. You ought to strive to attend a prominent university. What's the point of going to a prestigious university? Just do as I say. Living that way made me tired of everything. I went to the school's rooftop to release some pent-up energy because I felt uncomfortable at home and at school. What? Who would that be, I wonder? Someone was there already. What? Kenny, the agitator. Mrs. Nancy Smith, the English teacher, was already present. After a brief moment of surprise at my appearance, she started laughing. Her arrival surprised me, but her smile calmed me down. You haven't submitted your career preferences, got into trouble in the club activities, and now you're on the off-limits rooftop. You're on the off-limits rooftop as well, aren't you? I'm allowed because I'm a teacher. Besides, I wanted to see the sky. The staff room feels suffocating. I retorted to the teacher, and that was her response. Then we had some lighthearted conversations, suggestions for the next lesson, stuff about club activities, talks that had nothing to do with me, and gradually I felt more at ease. By the way, what do you want to do in the future? At that question from her, I couldn't answer anything. What is my dream for the future? I'm struggling because I don't know. I think I'd be better in sales or something rather than teaching. Leaving me aside, Mrs. Smith started talking. Look, if you don't have something you want to do, why not just get a job or start a business? You don't seem like someone who'd work well under others. You'd be suited for entrepreneurship. What a reckless thing to say. Yet, it was enough to clear the cloudiness in my heart. My parents tell me to study and become a public officer, and my homeroom teacher says I'll end up a foolish adult if I don't go to university. But I could take Mrs. Smith's words to heart more than theirs. Right. I might quit teaching and start a business. Let's see who can earn more in the future. That was Mrs. Smith's suggestion. Even though I thought it was foolish, my heart felt the clearest it ever had. Starting a business, huh? Even after returning home, I kept pondering Mrs. Smith's words. It's not that I don't want to study. However, I can't think of a reason why I must continue studying. I felt more suited to having a rival and striving together, as Mrs. Smith suggested, rather than studying aimlessly. If I tell it as it is, my parents would surely oppose it. My parents won't understand me. Therefore, I didn't tell my parents, and instead wrote employment on the school's career preference survey. To be prepared for any probing from my homeroom teacher or parents, I decided to look for companies that hire high school graduates. Why not start a business? Mrs. Smith made it sound trivial, but I thought I should first experience society. My homeroom teacher reacted just as I expected upon seeing my survey. There's a limit to what companies will hire a high school graduate. But that's my preference. The homeroom teacher clearly looked down on me. Then they called my parents to the school. What are you thinking, you shameless fool? I can't believe you are this foolish. I thought you were a troublemaker, but I didn't realize you were so thoughtless. I was subjected to what could be taken as verbal abuse from my parents and my homeroom teacher. But out of defiance, I vowed to work and succeed just to prove them wrong. It's my life. I'll do what I want. In the end, I didn't back down and got a job right after graduating high school. Then, I moved out and started living on my own. After that, I never saw my parents again, nor did I feel the desire to. I felt kind of liberated. I didn't feel lonely at all. You really took that step. Maybe I should too. Mrs. Smith said that to me when I was graduating. After that, I worked desperately. Even though it was my choice, I felt somewhat inferior for only having a high school diploma. In an era where a university degree is the norm, being a high school graduate was something that attracted attention, for better or worse. Why didn't you go to university or vocational school? My colleague would ask me. In response, I always gave vague answers. People around me speculated, he must come from a poor family that needed him to work immediately. And they sympathized with me based on their assumptions. I disliked being pitied or favored by those around me. If I could produce results at work, I believed that others would recognize me as a competent individual. With that thought, I decided to give my all. Before I knew it, 10 years had passed since I joined the company. Now hardly any employees looked at me with pity. Kenny, you're always working hard. I see you're really reliable. Thank you. From my early days, working hard and taking the initiative in tasks gained me support from my colleagues. My 10 years of diligent work were recognized not only within the company, but also by our business partners. It was right to trust Kenny. Working with you is reassuring. I received praise as well. Kenny is quick and thorough with his work. It's a pleasure to work with him. Especially Jessica, the sales manager from a partner company, praised me a lot. She seemed much more mature than me, but I couldn't quite believe the rumors that she was the same age as me. I'm honored to hear you say so much. Kenny, you're really hardworking. I'd like you to come work for our company. She shared my interest in Anna, which made us get along well, and we even went out for drinks privately. While drinking, we talked about our favorite things. I liked those moments. But it wasn't all good. Don't get too cocky, you high school grad loser. I would like to think that my 10 years had finally paid off, but there was one concerning person among the employees. It was the new director, James. The director was an academic who had his own value system. The more educated, the better. The less educated, the incompetent. From James' point of view, I was a piece of trash. Hey, useless one. He would call me that, never by my name. Go buy coffee for me. Even someone as useless as you can manage that. Moreover, James would order me to do menial tasks, not even acknowledging me. Even when others from different companies praised me, he would say, "Did you offer to sleep your way to the top? You must have it tough, being incompetent. You go to such lengths." In front of other employees, he hurled such terrible slander at me. I had pride in my 10 years of service. However, as he pointed out, I didn't have a higher education. James, please judge me based on my current performance. The fact that you're undereducated is the truth. If you want me to acknowledge you, at least go to university. Even when I expressed my thoughts, being talked down to about my educational background left me without a retort. As a result, I could only keep my frustration to myself, sighing in dismay. One day, Jessica came to our company for a business meeting. "Sorry, it seems I forgot some documents. I'll fetch them right away." "It's okay. No rush. Take your time." I thanked Jessica, who smiled and forgave me as I hurried back to my desk for the documents. As I was about to return to her, "I need to hurry." Whoa. In my head, I didn't notice James drinking coffee around the corner and accidentally bumped into him. I'm so sorry. I had to return to Jessica, so I quickly apologized and ran off. That bastard. I didn't realize until the end that James was glaring at me with anger. After the meeting, Jessica and I were chatting as we walked her to the entrance of the company. Hey, incompetent. From behind, James called out to me. James, what was your attitude earlier? I'm very sorry about earlier. I was in a hurry because of the meeting. I quickly sensed what he wanted to say and apologized to him. However, he seemed angry about how I acted when I bumped into him and couldn't contain his anger. I don't like it when someone thinks a mere sorry is enough after bumping into their boss. I don't need employees who can't respect their superiors. Meeting or not, it's wrong for someone with your low education to act so high and mighty. In front of Jessica, James was yelling at me. When I glanced at Jessica, she was frowning and looking at James. You're fired. I've tolerated you until now, but I can't stand it anymore. Pack your things and get out. Wait a minute. I've been working here for a long time, and to be fired just because I bumped into you once. I objected to his abrupt dismissal, not caring how Jessica looked at me. But that only made him angrier. Just because you bumped into me once? Are you mocking me? With your low education, that's why you're losing your job. I've already poached someone with higher education, so you're unnecessary. This can't be. We argued for a while, but he had the upper hand in terms of power. As I became increasingly disheartened, James smiled smugly. I've poached a young, highly educated person, so you're no longer needed. Hearing this again made me slump in defeat. Were my 10 years all for nothing? That's when. Excuse me for a moment. Jessica, who had been quietly listening to our conversation, interjected. At that, James looked puzzled. Please stay out of this. You're an outsider. So you're firing him because his attitude towards you wasn't good, even though he's been with this company for 10 years and has an excellent work record. Is that the kind of company this is? Ignoring James' words, Jessica pressed on. I could only watch in silence. You are the sales manager of another company, so please don't try to interfere with us like a big shot. Understood. If he's going to be fired, I will take him in. What did you just say? Surprised, I looked at Jessica. James looked even more shocked. Is it up to you to decide that then? Please pack your things quickly and come to our company. Ignoring the flustered James, she urged me on. Compelled by her, I headed to my desk to pack my belongings. Please consider all the business deals you were advancing as null. Once he joins us, everything will be resolved. I will inform your president of this, including what happened here. Hearing that the deals would be canceled and that the president would be informed, James turned pale. Wait. Hold on. All right, your firing is canceled. Ignoring him, Jessica firmly pushed me forward. After discussions, including with our president, it was decided that I would join Jessica's company. Pulled away from the one I had served for 10 years, James's actions led to the loss of significant business, and he faced tremendous repercussions from the executives. You could probably get a good settlement if you had evidence. That's all right. Thank you. I said with a wry smile to Jessica's words. I had endured terrible treatment from him, but just being freed from it was enough for me. If Kenny joins our company, James is going to be in big trouble anyway. What do you mean by that? Don't worry about it. You'll find out soon enough. While I was packing, my colleagues approached me. They apologized for not being able to cover for me and encouraged me to do my best in the next company. I thanked them and changed jobs. Jessica, I would like to thank the president later. I told Jessica that I wanted to thank the president. In fact, right after being recruited, I had asked her, is it okay without the president's approval? It's fine, don't worry. Jessica reassured me in response to my question. I expressed my desire to meet the president. That's when the president has time, Jessica replied. She took care of all the paperwork and formalities. I really want to meet the president soon. All right, all right. She finally seemed willing to arrange the meeting. With a slightly absent-minded smile, Jessica led me to the president's office. There, the president was waiting. It's been a while, hasn't it, naughty boy? You've grown up quite a bit." The person greeted me with a grin, a voice and manner I felt I recognized. "This is President Nancy Smith." Jessica introduced her. In that moment, a flood of distant memories came back to me. Back in high school, amid career concerns and discord with my parents. Why not start a business? She was the teacher who casually suggested it. Thanks to those simple conversations on the rooftop, I was able to take my first step into society. She was my benefactor, the one who shaped who I am today. And there she was, Mrs. Smith, right in front of me. "Mrs. Smith, why are you here?" "Oh, it's nothing much. I told you at the graduation ceremony, didn't I? That I needed to take a step forward too." Mrs. Smith answered with a laugh. "After you graduated, I quit teaching and started this company. I always knew I wanted to do something, but when I saw you take the first step, I knew I had to step up too, even though I'm older." She explained that to me and then pointed to Jessica. "She's my daughter, same age as you. She opposed me more than anyone when I first mentioned starting a business. It's quite sad to be so negatively received by your own family." Of course, Jessica scoffed. She quit her job the moment I graduated from high school, and Dad was like, "If Nancy thought it through, it's going to be all right." So nonchalant. The two started arguing in front of me, a typical parent-child squabble. It was so different from the composed Mrs. Smith or the manager Jessica I knew. Watching this scene made me smile. They looked at me. Their expressions seemed somewhat embarrassed. "You really took that step you talked about back then. And thank you for saving me," I said, thanking Mrs. Smith. "You actually went out into society and served well for 10 years. The reason we continued business with that company was because of you. It was only natural for me to employ you," she said. Jessica nodded. "As my mother told me, you worked hard and dedicated yourself fully. That's why the business continued. It wasn't because I had a special view of you." Mrs. Smith and Jessica both kindly assured me my 10 years at that company were not in vain. I had never worked hard just for praise, but I was deeply grateful that there were people who saw and helped me. "Your behavior saved you," Mrs. Smith said, bringing tears to my eyes. Since then, I've been working hard to contribute to Mrs. Smith and Jessica's company, the ones who saved me. Later, when I visited a client, they said, "I wanted to sign a contract because Kenny was in charge. That's why I want to sign with N's company now." We ended up getting new contracts under better terms than my previous company. Thanks to this, our company's performance has been on the rise, while my former company has been declining. The highly educated individual James had poached turned out to be incompetent, often upsetting clients and causing trouble for James. I was later informed by a former colleague. "They're talking about demoting him soon to take responsibility," the former colleague said, who was also planning to change jobs soon. The situation had escalated to this point largely because the president had neglected James' actions. James was the president's favorite, and the president at that time was under his thumb. Why do you think he was in such a place during working hours on the day that led to Ken's job change? When I was asked that question, I remembered that while everyone was at their desks or out for business, James was drinking coffee in a discreet spot. He was shoving his duties onto those with less education and slacking off. So that's why he was there. It turns out James often slacked off there, not just on that day. I happened to pass by in a hurry and bumped into him. The president overlooked this too. Everyone's preparing to leave because they don't want to be in such a place anymore. It seems that the competent executives are going independent, and many employees plan to follow them. I didn't expect things to escalate this much, but it turned out for the better. I expressed my encouragement to the former colleague and said goodbye. Years have passed since I joined Nancy's company. Jessica and I had become a couple. "Well, it's natural for young people who are together to end up this way," Nancy said, smiling happily at us. "Working under my benefactor and having a special someone. I felt the happiest I've ever been. We need to say hello to your parents, Jessica mentioned, causing mixed feelings in me. I haven't been in touch with my parents since graduating from high school. I was cut off from them. To think of introducing someone I'm dating with the intention of marrying to such parents seemed impossible. My parents. If you're going to meet his parents, maybe I should come along. Yes, that's best. Besides, I was the one who saved him. There might be some thanks in it for me. Initially reluctant to introduce her daughter to my parents, Nancy began to set up a meeting. Casually seeing this, I reluctantly informed my parents about the meetup. Time passed, and when the scheduled hour arrived, my parents showed up at the designated place. It had been a while. I saw my parents for the first time in a long time and got a little excited. It had been more than 10 years since I left home after falling out with them. I did have nostalgic memories. Smiling, I greeted them, and my parents responded. You haven't changed much, have you? Right, you haven't changed, they said without looking me in the eyes. At that moment, I didn't think anything was amiss. Thank you so much for taking care of our foolish son, my parents said to Nancy and Jessica. I felt a bit uncomfortable with the term foolish son, but thought it might just be their way of speaking modestly. I let everyone into the restaurant Nancy had arranged. The dinner was going smoothly, and everyone had started to drink. It's such an honor to have your distinguished daughter choose our son. He left home without listening to anything we said. We thought he might end up nowhere, my mother began to say. Then my father continued, this guy, not going to university after high school and just getting a job, did something only a fool would think of. I suppose his salary is still low. He must be starting to realize I was right. That's why he contacted us. They started belittling my career like that. I wanted to stop them, but couldn't find the words. Jessica, despite the earlier conversation, was just giving a forced smile. He's desperately living his life in his own incompetent way. I don't know what company he joined, but I'm sure it's not a great one since they hire people like him. In the next moment, Nancy splashed water on my parents. My parents were taken aback, and Jessica and I were too stunned to react quickly. I've reached my limit of patience. Listening to you two speak makes my meal taste bad. It's astonishing how much you can badmouth your own son. In a way, I'm impressed. You have no right to ridicule his initiative, Nancy spat out. At that, my parents' faces turned red with anger. Who do you think you are? I'm just the president of the not-so-great company that took in your supposedly good-for-nothing son. Please take note, Nancy said to my angry parents, put down her business card, and looked at us. Let's go have another drink, she said, leading us out of the restaurant. I did something too much earlier, so I'll pay here, she added. We went into Nancy's favorite pub and had a drink again. Checking my phone briefly, I saw messages from my parents. What's the meaning of this? Explain to us. My father had sent me a message. Nancy spoke the truth. I replied before turning off my phone. I'm sorry, Kenny. No, don't worry about it. I had forgotten. My parents never really saw me. Ever since, my parents had insisted they were right, which led them to pressure me about my education. Kenny, I like you just the way you are. Now I know. I truly believe I did the right thing by not following their path. Meeting with my parents might have been a good thing after all. It reminded me of the value of having people who understand me. I thought perhaps it could deepen the family bond, but with such parents, it's better to stay away. Nancy remarked when we got back to the company, her words making me realize that I had shared the details with Jessica, but not with Nancy. Given her free-spirited nature as a former teacher, she probably never inquired about my family situation. I think so too. If I had stayed with those parents, I would have ended up like James. I would have become someone who easily disrespects others. I was somewhat fortunate to have distanced myself from such parents early on. By the way, Was there a reason you left your business card? Oh, that was so if you ever want to reconcile with your family, or if they reach out, they'd know the company name, and it would be easier to contact you. That remark made me think of my parents' faces when they belittled me. It was awful. Later, when I turned my phone back on, the messages had turned into insults like disgrace to the family, and you're just a fool. Seeing that, I honestly couldn't imagine a day when we could reconcile. It might be like that now. I certainly don't want to get close to your parents either, Nancy said. Nancy also had a bad impression of my parents, but having the willingness to make amends is necessary to survive in society. I thought about that and agreed. Just because we don't get along or dislike each other doesn't mean we can avoid interaction. But that doesn't mean you should sacrifice your well-being. What do you mean? If you had stayed with your parents, you might have broken down eventually. That's why the decision you made back then was wise, Nancy said with a gentle smile. I smiled back at her. Yes, I am who I am today because of that decision. Hopefully, we can understand each other someday. I hope for that too, Nancy agreed. I nodded, trying not to let the tears fall. Sometime later, Jessica and I got married. We didn't invite my parents to the wedding. They would probably get drunk at the ceremony and ruin it by bullying me. I have them blocked on my contacts for now. Maybe someday, if we can reconcile, we might be able to have a relationship as a family. When that time comes, I'll have them say I'm a proud son. That's right, Jessica said, laughing as I stroked her belly. Now she has our child in her belly. We plan to give our child a future full of freedom, just like Nancy and me. I want our child to try various things, but sometimes someone needs to be there to say stop. That'll be my role, Jessica said with a laugh, and I felt incredibly happy during this moment. There are people in the world who just can't understand each other. People like me and Nancy prefer to move freely without being confined by conventions. Others, like James and my parents, stick to conventional norms. The important thing is to care for others and not to deny their faults. Making an effort to understand each other is necessary for living in society. However, it's counterproductive if trying too hard breaks one's spirit. If understanding each other is impossible, keeping a distance is also necessary for survival. This experience has made me acutely aware of that. In fact, being apart has allowed me to live these peaceful and happy days. I wonder what paths our child will choose. With our kid being their grandchild, it's unpredictable. If we've got a baby boy, we will let him choose his path. I'll give him as much love and support as I didn't get. Jessica and I have made that promise. By the way, my mom said she's coming to see her grandchild. Is that so? Then we'll have to give her a grand welcome. I have a precious family that understands me. Thanks to their presence, I keep smiling from the bottom of my heart today.
Emily O. Kevin. While playing with my nephew in the park, I unexpectedly ran into my former boss, who had abruptly left the company 3 years ago after taking 2 weeks of paid leave. She disappeared without giving any reason. Now, standing beside my former boss was a girl who looked about kindergarten age. Back then, I thought she had left to live a happy married life. I'm Kevin, 27 years old. After graduating from college, I joined a small and medium-sized business. I felt I could manage somehow, but once I entered the workforce, I realized how sheltered I had been as a student. Even as a new employee, I understood the importance of initiative and proactivity. However, being shy and reserved by nature, I found it hard to step forward. My colleagues who joined the company at the same time as me were more outgoing and quickly bonded with seniors and supervisors. Meanwhile, I struggled to ask questions, even when I didn't understand something, and just followed along, unsure if I was doing things right. At that time, a senior colleague approached me and asked, "How's your work going?" It was Emily, a senior by 3 years. She was strikingly beautiful, and I became so nervous in her presence that I acted awkwardly. In front of this senior I admired, I fumbled my words while explaining the status of my work. "I should have paid more attention to help you," she said, even though it was my fault for not seeking guidance. Emily immediately offered her support. From then on, she would notice whenever I was struggling and would come to help. At company parties when I wasn't sure where to sit, she'd invite me to join her. Other co-workers and bosses would just say, "He's a quiet guy," and that was about it. But Emily, without teasing, always encouraged me, saying, "Ask anything, and it's okay to make mistakes." Emily was promoted to a supervisor at 28, following the retirement of our department head, Michael. Everyone moved up in rank. Her constant smile, friendly approach, quick thinking, and sense of responsibility made her the obvious choice for the promotion. Even as a supervisor, Emily continued to support her subordinates, including me, and was a kind and reliable presence. She never said anything to diminish our motivation. Thanks to her, I began to gain confidence and show more initiative. I even started to notice myself becoming more proactive. I was initially reserved, but gradually I developed the ability to speak up and take action, making work more enjoyable. However, 5 years after joining the company, Emily suddenly took a day off. She had never missed work due to illness before. I thought it was unusual, but when I asked Michael about her absence, he only said, "She's feeling a bit unwell," without providing any details or knowing when she would return. She might take a break for a while. I heard from Michael, but even after a week, Emily didn't come to work. Another week passed. One day during the morning assembly, it was announced that Emily had resigned. I thought we had built a considerable relationship as boss and subordinate. I felt she could have at least said something before leaving, and I wanted to express my gratitude for all she had done for me. After all, I owe my progress to Emily. But my emails went unanswered. I even tried calling her personally once, only to hear an announcement that it was official. I never managed to get in touch with Emily again. 3 years passed, and I turned 30. I continued to enjoy my work and a fulfilling life. During that year's holiday season, my sister, who had moved to Alaska, returned home for the first time in years, and we planned a family gathering. It had been years since I last saw my niece and nephew. For the first half of the holiday, we went sightseeing and had a barbecue in our backyard. For the second half, we decided to relax at home. But my energetic niece and nephew couldn't sit still and wanted to play. So, along with my sister's family, I decided to go to the large park near our home. Arriving at the park, my nephew excitedly pulled me toward the big slide. As the slide came into view, his excitement peaked, and he let go of my hand, running ahead. As this was happening, I called out to the kids, "Let's take turns, okay?" But at the bottom of the slide stairs, there was a bit of a scuffle between my nephew and a girl about kindergarten age over who would go first. Seeing this, I hurried over to my nephew. The girl's mother also hurried over, and we both apologized, saying, "I'm sorry," to each other. Then, when I looked up, Emily, "Oh, Kevin," she responded. I was truly surprised. It was Emily, right there in front of me. For a moment, it felt like time had stopped. With the kids needing attention, our greetings were brief. Soon, my nephew got bored of the slide and started playing in the sandbox with my niece and the girl Emily had brought. My sister and her husband kindly offered to watch the kids, allowing Emily and me to talk on a nearby bench. The girl I thought was Emily's daughter turned out to be her niece. Emily had thought my nephew was my son. We both laughed at our mutual misunderstanding. "Looks like we're both still single," I thought. She was your daughter because she resembles you. Seeing Emily smile again after so long brought back memories. But it's good to see you're doing well. After a brief pause, I naturally spoke. I left the company suddenly back then, Emily said with a hint of sadness in her smile. I wondered why she had left so abruptly. I wanted to ask the reason I never got to hear back then. But seeing Emily's sad face, I thought better of it and held back. Emily, watching her niece, seemed deep in thought. Then she revealed, actually, Olivia's mom, my sister, passed away right after giving birth to her. Emily shared her story with a sorrowful expression. Her sister, a single mother, had complications during childbirth and tragically passed away. Shocked by this news, Emily took a leave from work. Overwhelmed by shock, she couldn't bring herself to say, "My sister has passed away," and instead took paid leave from the company. Even after her sister's funeral, the grief of losing her sister wasn't something that could easily fade away. So, she took another week off, citing poor health. The loss of her close sister was devastating, and her parents were equally shattered. Worried about leaving her grieving parents, Emily decided to resign. On her last day of leave, Emily's family home was far from the company. She felt she had no other choice but to resign. Hearing this for the first time, I was at a loss for words. Eventually, it was decided that Olivia would be raised by her grandparents. However, Emily was determined to take her sister's place. After discussions, they agreed to raise Olivia together as a family of 3. To make child rearing easier, they moved from the city to this more rural area. Coincidentally, it was near my parents' home. As we were talking, Olivia came over and said, "Emmy, shall we go home?" "So you're called Emmy," I said with an involuntary smile at the adorable nickname. Emily laughed a bit shyly. "Is this big brother a friend of yours?" Used to being called Kevin by my niece and nephew, I felt a bit shy being called Big Brother. "Yes, I'm a friend of Emmy." Emily seemed a bit embarrassed as I used her nickname. Thanks to Olivia, the mood lightened, softening the earlier sadness. "This inbox was fun. See you again, bye-bye." Emmy cheerfully called out to my niece and nephew, waving with a smile. Then she started to leave, holding Emily's hand. "Emily, can I ask for your contact information?" Not wanting to part ways just yet, I hastily called out to Emily. It turned out to be the right decision to ask for her contact at that moment. Although Emily's number was still in my phone, she had changed her phone number. If I had just thought to send an email later, I might never have met Emily again. Emily gladly gave me her contact information. "See you later," I said, waving to Olivia as our reunion for the day came to an end. Even though I exchanged contacts with Emily, I struggled with what to write. "Glad to have met you today" seemed too straightforward, and "it was fun playing together" didn't quite fit. I could easily write business emails, but finding the right words for this was tough. I kept looking at and turning away from my phone. Noticing this, my sister teasingly asked, "Is it about that former boss you met today?" "No, it's not," I protested, but apparently it was written all over my face. She chuckled and teased. "I thought she was your type." My sister knew me well. She could see right through me. Emily was indeed beautiful. Of course, I didn't think I was her match, but the Emily I met again after 3 years had changed from being stern to a softer presence. On the last day of the holiday, I went to the airport to see off my sister's family. I also planned to return to my own home on the same day. Eventually, I sent Emily an email that day. Despite my deliberation, it ended up being a simple message about heading back home and that I would contact her again. Emily replied, Thanks for playing with Olivia. Take care on your way home. Back to my regular life, Emily stayed on my mind. I wanted to send her a message, but still couldn't decide what to say. Finally, I started talking about local topics, like whether the old candy store we used to visit was still there or recommending good restaurants. Emily shared her favourite spots and places she frequently visited. Sometimes we talked about Olivia, and though we didn't have deep conversations, we exchanged emails once or twice a week. Then came the Christmas holiday. I hadn't always gone back home for the Christmas holiday every year, but this time I returned on the first day of the holiday season. Though it might seem disrespectful to the ancestors, my real reason for going home was the desire to see Emily and Olivia. Hi, Kev. Olivia ran over with a bright smile. That evening, I had arranged to meet Emily and Olivia near a convenience store close to my home. Olivia had expressed a wish to go to the Christmas market with me, so the three of us set off together. Hold hands because it's crowded. Emily must have always told her that. Olivia held both Emily's and my hand tightly. It was only my second time meeting Olivia, but she was incredibly friendly and adorable, skipping between Emily and me. I'm so looking forward to the Christmas market, the market I used to go to every year as a child. Seeing the stalls, I too got excited, nostalgic. Christmas tree ornaments, eggnog, toy lotteries. Every time Olivia said, "I want to drink this," or "I want to try that," I joined in and had fun with her. When I offered to pay for both Olivia and Emily's treats, Emily tried to refuse, but I insisted. "It's okay. I love the Christmas market." Giving us some awkward reason, I was just happy to have this reunion after such a long time and wanted to do at least this much. Seeing Olivia and Emily smiling the whole time was more than enough for me. That night, before going to sleep, I received an email from Emily. In the email, she shared how Olivia kept talking about all the fun and happy moments of the day until she fell asleep, smiling, and saying she wanted to play again with me the next day. I received an email with a drawing Olivia made with crayons. It was a colourful depiction of the market stalls, and the three of us holding hands, walking together. At that moment, I felt as if I had gained another niece, cherishing the joy with an uncle's affection. But perhaps I was already developing a different kind of feeling for Emily. As next Christmas approached, I found myself thinking about a present for Olivia, but also about Emily. Then came Christmas. Since I was off work, I went to visit Emily and Olivia. I skipped visiting my family home and headed straight to our meeting spot near the local train station. We had arranged to meet there to enjoy the Christmas event happening in front of the station. It was another of Olivia's requests that we were fulfilling. When Olivia saw me, she ran over with a smile, calling Kev, and excitedly led me to Emily. It was my first time seeing Emily and Olivia in the Christmas holiday, seeing their beaming faces, Emily with a white scarf, and Olivia's energetic demeanour. I felt a sense of relief. "Merry Christmas, Olivia," I greeted, handing her the Christmas present I brought. Olivia's eyes sparkled as she received it, saying thank you with a big smile, holding it carefully with both hands. "Good for you," Emily said to Olivia, and then turned to me with a smile, saying thank you. She appeared slightly apologetic, scrunching up her face a bit. In fact, Emily knew what was inside Olivia's present. I had struggled with what to get her and had secretly asked Emily what Olivia might like. Initially, Emily was hesitant to tell me, but during our conversation over email, Olivia expressed a desire to go to the Christmas event at the station. Hearing about the event, perhaps recalling our time at the Christmas market, Olivia said, "I want to play with Kevin again." This gave me a good pretext to meet and also made the arrangement of her present go smoothly. The dazzling Christmas lights were enchanting. I took a photo of Emily and Olivia in front of a large Christmas tree. They really looked like a beautiful mother-daughter pair, I thought. "Would you like us to take a picture?" We were approached by a young couple, probably college students, offering to take our photo. "Say that again. We can take a family photo for you. So, why don't you join in?" Emily and I exchanged a puzzled look. Emily appeared just as perplexed as I was. Then Olivia, smiling, beckoned us over. I awkwardly crouched next to Olivia, along with Emily, and I also said cheese and had the photo taken. After expressing our thanks to the couple, we looked at the photo they took for us. "Show me," Olivia said, and as I showed her the photo, my eyes met Emily's. She smiled at me. I wondered if her slight bashfulness was just my imagination. Was I imagining her bashfulness? The photo of the three of us, and this time spent together, filled me with happiness and warmth. And then I decided it was time to share something important with her. After dinner at a casual restaurant, I drove Emily and a sleepy Olivia back to their home. Olivia had fallen asleep in Emily's arms, exhausted from the excitement. When we arrived at the house, Emily quietly came out from the entrance. She mentioned that her mother had noticed and had taken over putting Olivia to bed. We sat on a bench in a small park across from Emily's house, and I took a moment to gather my thoughts. I pulled a small package from my bag and handed it to Emily as her Christmas present. "For me?" she exclaimed in surprise and delight. "Can I open it?" she asked. As I said yes, Emily carefully opened the small package. "It's beautiful," she said. The present was a necklace with a small diamond, a gift for Emily. It was a simple design, but I had carefully chosen it, thinking it would suit Emily. She looked at the necklace with delight, but her expression also carried a hint of confusion. "Emily, I know you're doing your best as Olivia's mom, but can I be by her side too?" I asked, expressing my feelings that I had been contemplating for a long time. Emily looked at me with surprise, then with a serious gaze, her eyes gradually filling with tears. She looked down, biting her lip and gazing off into the distance, seemingly lost in thought. From her profile, she appeared to be deep in thought. After a while, she spoke. "I'm sorry and thank you. I'm really happy to know how you feel, Kevin. To be honest, I'm drawn to you too. You've been kind to both Olivia and me, and our email exchanges have been a comforting part of my day. I've been grateful to have you in our lives, but I want to raise Olivia properly. I may not be her real mother, but I intend to be by her side as if I were. So I can't reciprocate your feelings. I'm sorry, but thank you." Emily tried to end the conversation there, but I wasn't speaking out of a half-hearted sentiment. I believed I understood how much Emily cherished Olivia from our regular email exchanges. Even though we had only reunited less than a year ago, I knew that even if marriage was in our future, becoming a parent to someone requires a significant commitment. Regardless of whether Emily, Olivia, and I would have that kind of relationship in the future, my desire to support their happiness was genuine. I conveyed my feelings straightforwardly to Emily. "Even if it's not as a lover, I still want to be there for you and Olivia. I might be younger and less reliable, but I want to be on your side. That's all." After I spoke, Emily, with tears streaming down her face, nodded and said thank you. After that, we had dinner at a diner and became close enough to meet several times a year, the three of us, Emily, Olivia, and myself. After that, we continued to meet several times a year, with me visiting Emily and Olivia more often. Amy's wish to ride planes led to them visiting my area for sightseeing. When Olivia was about to start elementary school, we went shopping together for her backpack. We bought some light meals from a store and decided to have lunch in a park with a playground. While eating sandwiches and enjoying the moment, Olivia suddenly said, "Kevin, Emmy, are you not going to get married by this time?" Olivia had totally been used to calling me Kev. "I wonder where she picked that up from," I said, surprised by her sudden question. Emily and I both choked on our food. "Why do you think that, Olivia?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "Because, Kev, you like Amy, right?" Olivia, with her cheeks full of sandwich, giggled and looked at Emily and me, saying, "I knew it." At that moment, we both laughed along with her, but I noticed a slight change in Emily's feelings. My own feelings had also grown stronger since that time. On another day, I formally proposed to Emily. Yes, she replied with a beaming smile and no hesitation. Thanks to Amy's words, we were able to move forward. I like to think that she was the little link that brought us together. Olivia entered elementary school, and I became her father. To be closer to our families, I made a significant decision to change jobs and move back to my hometown. We rented an apartment near both our parents' homes and started living together as a family. Now we are raising Olivia together with both sets of grandparents. I'm committed to protecting her pure and honest smile, as well as Emily's for years to come.
Hey, show me where you work. I was startled and unconsciously glanced at her face. With her typical condescending and conceited demeanor, Lauren, with whom I had reconnected during our reunion after 18 years, was making an outrageous demand. Why? I hesitantly inquired as to why. During her argument, she abruptly altered her tone and started emphasizing her points. I want to see with my own eyes what kind of lowly company a high school dropout like you works at. In an attempt to stop her hysterical outbursts, I reluctantly took her to a certain company. But the location was nothing like the humble office she had envisioned. It was a large publicly traded company. In addition, her husband, Kevin, whom she constantly boasted about, showed up for the meeting. "Why are you here?" "Jason is my name." "What is the new rock like? Are you fond of it?" As I gazed into the aquarium, I spoke to my pet turtle, Buddy, whom I love very much. As the saying goes, turtles live 10,000 years, cranes live 1,000 years. With an average lifespan of almost 40 years, green turtles actually outlive other creatures. As I began to grow tired of living alone, I had the sudden impulse to adopt a pet and went to a local pet store. But for some reason, I didn't like any of the cats or dogs in the exhibit. Taking care of a live thing entails responsibilities, of course. I was undecided that day and left the store without deciding because I had never owned a dog or cat before. But when I came home, the thoughts persisted. Later, when I went back to the store, I noticed a sign that said, "Green turtles now in stock." "Excuse me? What's this?" A young woman employee in the area directed me to a tank with multiple green turtles swimming in it when I questioned her. I was totally enthralled by their big eyes, jet black bodies, and dark green shells. I observed their attempts to use their sharp claws to scale the rocks, and before I knew it, I had brought a green turtle and all the supplies needed for turtle care home. 3 years have passed since then. At least I'll be with this little guy for another 37 years. I had to go to work after setting the food timer and verifying the water's temperature and oxygen content. I ride a road bike instead of taking the train. In addition to being a pastime, it helps me lose the belly fat that began to annoy me once I turned 30. I've always valued the morning hours the most in my day, even before the craze for morning activities gained popularity. People's ability to focus and think clearly is considered to be at its best in the morning. Spending more than an hour riding my road cycle down Central Street in New York helps me decompress and may even inspire ideas for the next product. Actually, I had an idea for our flagship product, the Micro Proman projector, while I was stuck at a traffic signal on my way to work. The sweet scent of coffee wafts through the air. It's that time of the year again. The weekend is likely to be perfect for outings. If the weather is good, I'll take Buddy for a walk in the nearby park. Lost in these pleasant thoughts, I was suddenly approached by a woman waiting to cross the street. "Hey, Jason." Turning around, I saw Lauren, a classmate from middle school, pointing at me in surprise. Lauren, who was one of the most beautiful girls in our class, if not our entire grade, still had a stunning, eye-catching beauty, now enhanced by the subtle allure of being 33 years old. She seemed aware she belonged in the bustling streets of New York. "It's funny. What, are you a delivery guy?" I couldn't quite grasp what she found amusing, but I assumed she meant, "It's funny running into you here," interpreting it in my own way. She seemed to have mistaken me pedaling my road bike for a delivery rider. "Sort of. What about you, Lauren?" She flashed an unnaturally white smile. "I have a photo shoot this morning, but more importantly, you're going to the reunion this weekend, right?" "Oh, right. I completely forgot about that." I remembered a postcard I had left at the entrance of my house. This weekend marks the 18-year reunion of my middle school class. The venue, if I recall correctly, is an Italian restaurant in Somerville. I'm planning to attend. As the traffic light looked like it was about to change, I replied briefly, "Make sure you come." She said in her usual high-handed manner, "Make sure you come." She hadn't changed a bit from those days. A stunning beauty with a flawless face and figure, but honestly not my type. I had seen many of my male friends in middle school get heartbroken by Lauren. Some were bluntly rejected and completely crushed, while others thought they were in a relationship with her, only to find out they were just being strung along. Who knows how many guys cried over her misleading behavior and cunningness. Of course, it wasn't just the boys. There were numerous couples who broke up simply because the boy had fallen for Lauren. Middle schoolers are in the sensitive period of adolescence. Once a conflict between boys and girls starts, rumors spread quickly in the confined school environment. Some girls were openly hostile towards Lauren, but she just ignored them as if nothing mattered. At the young age of 15, her audacity and brazenness were unparalleled, almost commanding respect. She carried herself as if the world revolved around her, a divine air to her demeanor. With her beauty and calculated behavior, she was like a bewitching witch at the top of the school hierarchy, manipulating those around her at will. On the other hand, back then, I was just an average middle school boy, more interested in club activities and video games than dating girls. The only thing notable about me was that my voice broke a little earlier than my friends. I wanted no part in the drama surrounding Lauren and her clique, nor did I want anyone taking away my precious gaming time. I was just a typical adolescent, perhaps even less mature for my age, while Lauren was a sophisticated middle schooler, years ahead of her time. I've always believed that I have a knack for sensing these kinds of things since I was young. Lauren was definitely one of those people. Her dazzling brilliance was beautiful from a distance, but get too close and you're likely to get burned. This unexpected morning encounter with Lauren made me reflect on my middle school days. As I pedaled on my road bike, arriving at work slightly sweaty, I finally settled into my day. As soon as I sat at my desk, I opened my computer. Our company has advanced in paperless operations, so everything from confidential contracts to personal receipts is stored electronically. At first glance, one might think there's no work left without physical documents, but once I opened my personal shared folder, a plethora of unreviewed documents awaited me. I let a sigh and checked my schedule on Outlook. 5 mandatory meetings today and over 45 unread emails. I prioritized my tasks before diving into the material for the first meeting. Days like this fly by in a blink. Sometimes, it's important to take a moment to reflect on oneself. In that sense, the reunion might be a good opportunity. Finally, after finishing my work for the day, I left the office. On my way home, intoxicated by the even sweeter scent of osmanthus, I rushed back on my road bike. Upon arriving home, I found Buddy in the same position as when I left, leisurely yawning on his new rock formation. Then came the weekend. The reunion was set for the evening, so I had planned to take Buddy to the park during the day. But unfortunately, it was rainy. With no other choice, I tossed the pile of laundry into the washing machine and pressed the start button on its automatic dry cycle. Immediately, the drum of the washer began to whirl. Watching it spin, my thoughts also began to whirl, taking me back to my middle school days. That was the day of our graduation ceremony. By chance, as I walked down the corridor, I overheard Lauren talking with a friend. "What's with him? He's so annoying." "The worst, really," she said in a petulant tone. "Calm down. There's no guy who wouldn't be swayed by Lauren," her friend consoled her, trying to reassure her. Honestly, I was more surprised to hear that there were guys she couldn't charm. It wasn't eavesdropping, but I couldn't help overhearing. I decided to keep this fact to myself without telling anyone. After the graduation ceremony, almost everyone in our grade went on to either public or private high schools, with just one exception. I was heavily into the computer class I was attending as an extracurricular activity at the time and decided to forego high school to pursue programming more seriously. I convinced my parents to let me immerse myself in a free school. Luckily, my parents were very open-minded and laid-back people. "How about you attend a famous computer school in New York instead? Is that a sports thing? What if Jason becomes a world champion or something? If you're going to be on TV, Mom has to start losing weight now." That was how casual my parents were, mixing computers, programming, and esports. Normally, if one parent is lenient, the other tends to be strict, but both of my parents were optimistic. Perhaps because they had me at a young age, they saw me not going to high school as a humorous son trying to accomplish something different and unconventional. So when I told them I didn't want to go to school and just explained what I wanted to do, there was no conflict with them at all. At the same time, I was surprised and somewhat worried about their too lenient educational stance. But thanks to that, I am who I am today. Eventually, I passed the entrance exam for a renowned programming school in Chino Hills, California, which my father found for me. I spent 2 years there mastering programming skills. Armed with these skills, I started my job hunt, but I encountered an unexpected problem. The career counselor at the job center frowned upon seeing my resume and said, "Programming School H. This doesn't give you a high school diploma, so your highest education is middle school." Sadly, that was exactly the case. One reason my parents didn't object to the programming school was that if I passed the selection test, the tuition would be almost free, making the educational expenses significantly lower than going to high school. We weren't extremely poor, but we were a low-middle-class family. Both of my parents were from rural areas and had no savings since they had me at a young age. Afterward, I was rejected by every IT-related company I applied to through the employment office, and dark clouds started looming over my life. But being the son of those parents, I maintained some optimism. If I can't get hired, leaving the job center, I headed straight to the tax office. "Hey, Jason over here." At the reunion, as I wandered around the large venue with a beer in hand, my best friend, Mark, spotted me and beckoned me over. "You didn't come last time, right? Good. You could make it." I had completely forgotten, but there was a reunion when we were 25. I think I missed it due to the flu or something. Actually, I ran into Lauren yesterday by chance. Hearing that, Mark was surprised. "Wow, Lauren's a super popular model now. We were in the same high school, you know. She was already doing reader modeling and appearing in magazines back then. Look, that crowd over there is definitely around Lauren." Mark pointed across the room while holding his beer. Looking where he pointed, there was indeed a crowd, and Lauren was at the center. As expected, she radiated the aura of a leading lady, as if the reunion was held just for her. Noticing our gaze, Lauren smiled brightly while gently dismissing the classmates talking to her with a wave of her hand. She confidently walked over to us, unaffected by her slender high heels. "So, you were already here." "Long time no see," she said. Mark seemed flustered when Lauren suddenly looked his way. "Oh yeah, you're still as beautiful as ever." I had forgotten, but Mark did have a crush on Lauren. Back then, he was too shy to confess his feelings. Unlike the other boys, if I remember correctly, the number of times he initiated a conversation with her could be counted on one hand. After we exchanged brief greetings, Lauren ostentatiously showed off her left ring finger. The ring was adorned with what appeared to be a large, sparkling diamond. "I actually got married," Lauren said. "We were both 33 years old." Somewhere in my heart, I had thought that Lauren might never marry. "Really? That's great. Congratulations." The old Mark probably would have hidden away and sulked after hearing that. It's only natural that he's grown up, and I found myself oddly impressed, almost like a parent would be. "I'm going to grab some food," Mark muttered. Maybe he still hadn't fully matured. Unable to endure the situation any longer, he left us to head toward the catering area. "My husband works at Microtech Inn," Lauren boasted. Microtech Corporation is a recently listed company gaining so much attention that it was even featured in the financial magazine's quarterly reports. So that's where Lauren's husband works. "What kind of work does he do? Which department?" Lauren seemed taken aback, not expecting me to inquire so deeply about her husband. She paused, looking like a pigeon shot with a pellet gun, but soon raised her chin and bragged confidently. "He's involved in creating the Micro Pro. I think it's the product development division. He's a manager, so he's on the fast track to success." Hearing this, something clicked in my mind. A certain person came to mind. Suddenly, the MC jumped onto the makeshift stage at the front of the venue and grabbed the microphone. "Okay, let's start the much-awaited bingo game. Please get your bingo cards ready," which were distributed at the reception. "And yes, we have prizes." Someone whistled loudly, amping up the excitement in the room. From somewhere, a long table on casters was wheeled in from the back. On top of the table were what appeared to be prizes: home appliances, gaming consoles, theme park tickets, and branded wallets. The lineup was surprisingly luxurious for a mere reunion event. No wonder the participation fee was high. The invitation card had mentioned that an Italian restaurant in Somerville was rented out for the event. Even considering the venue cost, a participation fee of $100 seemed like a ripoff, but seeing the prizes, it felt somewhat justified. The venue lights dimmed for the bingo game, spotlighting the host on stage. I later learned that one of the organizing members worked in stage technology, so the professional lighting was borrowed for free from their workplace. "The first number is 24, announced the DJ, holding up a small ball with a number. Another organizer quickly wrote 24 on a whiteboard set up nearby. With the audience lights dimmed, the only way to see the faces of those around us was by the light spilling from the stage. Lauren, still next to me, whispered just loud enough for me to hear, "Hey, how about we make a bet?" I turned to her, puzzled. Her gaze remained fixed on the DJ on the stage. "Whoever gets bingo first wins." I couldn't understand why she was challenging me to such a childish game. "If I'd win, show me where you work." Her sudden demand caught me off guard. "Why?" I asked. "The next number is 81, she continued. "Maybe we'll see some reaches soon." The entire venue was getting into the spirit. Soon, someone nearby shouted, "Bingo." Lauren then suddenly turned to face me. Although her face was hard to see due to the stage lights, her eyes were cold and sharper than I'd ever seen. "I want to see where a high school dropout like you works." For a moment, the air between us turned icy. What's her deal? I never liked Lauren, not even back in middle school, and we weren't particularly close. If anything, I had kept my distance to avoid trouble. Yet now, for some reason, she seemed intent on involving me. Soon after, someone finally yelled, Bingo. The venue erupted in applause. The lights suddenly brightened, allowing us to finally see each other clearly. Prizes are going fast, everyone. The next number is 7. Hearing this, Lauren smirked. Lucky number 7. I win. Remember our bet. She left me standing there in surprise and promptly went forward to claim her prize. Ah, there you are. Couldn't see you in the dark? Mark, who had disappeared earlier, found me and started chatting again. He offered me a plate overflowing with salad and fried chicken, insisting I eat. I debated whether to tell my best friend about my recent interaction with Lauren, but in the end, I decided not to tell anyone. The 18-year reunion came to a close without further incident. The prizes were all gone, and my bingo card remained without a win, reduced to just a piece of paper. Thanks for keeping your promise. See you today. Lauren messaged me on a messaging app within a week of the reunion. I wondered who told her my account, but decided not to look into it. I wasn't too keen on it, but a promise is a promise. I arranged to meet her in front of a certain company. Hey, this is my husband's company, she realized as soon as we arrived. Indeed, as she said, we were standing in front of Microtech Corporation. I told you I want to see where you work. Her tone was noticeably more forceful than before. To avoid further upsetting her, I silently followed Lauren into the lobby of Microtech Corporation, and together we approached the reception desk. I then asked for her husband by name. You are here to see Kevin. Do you have an appointment? No, we don't, I answered quickly. The receptionist smiled apologetically. Unfortunately, without an appointment, this lady is the wife of Kevin from the product development division. She insists on seeing her husband. The receptionist briefly glanced at Lauren. For appearance's sake, Lauren gave a small nod and murmured a polite greeting. Understood. I'll check with Kevin. May I ask your relationship to him? Lauren tapped her fingers impatiently on the counter, looking irritated. Why are you doing this, calling out my husband like this? What are you planning? You and Kevin haven't even met before, right? Ignoring her questions, I handed my business card to the receptionist. Her demeanor changed instantly, looking back and forth between the card and me. Mr. Smith from Global Tech. I apologize for the oversight. Please go to the 15th floor. Lauren looked surprised at the receptionist's sudden change of attitude. Without fully understanding the situation, we got into the elevator together. Partway up, 2 female employees joined us. Noticing Lauren, they started whispering to each other. Is that the model Lauren? Lauren, accustomed to such attention, ignored them, maintaining her silence. Just as one of the women was about to approach Lauren, we reached our floor. Lauren brusquely stepped out of the elevator, expression tense. In the guest meeting room, after a short wait, the door opened. It was Kevin, Lauren's husband. Lauren, why are you here? Mr. Smith, what brings you here suddenly? Is there an issue with our products? He seemed more concerned about why I was there than about his wife's unexpected appearance. I'm sorry for barging in unannounced. Lauren, a former classmate, was curious about what her husband does, so I brought her here, I explained, showing respect. President Smith and his wife were classmates, Kevin said, a little surprised. I had no idea. I don't know the circumstances, but it seems my wife has caused some trouble. I'm truly sorry for that. Seeing the 2 men apologizing to each other, Lauren appeared awkward and embarrassed. Jason, I wanted to see what kind of place a junior high school dropout like you worked at. So, why did you bring me here? Lauren asked hesitantly, her eyes filled with suspicion. It seemed like the right time to reveal the truth. After graduating from middle school, I had dropped out of high school to attend a programming school. Once I had a reasonable grasp of computer-related knowledge, I started looking for a job. However, no company was willing to hire me, given my junior high education. After much deliberation, I decided to register my own business at the tax office as a self-employed individual. I began taking on small retail tasks for computer peripherals and simple programming projects. Gradually, my business expanded, and I launched my own original e-commerce site. Initially, it was just small computer parts, but eventually, I started dealing in other electronics. Now my company, Global Tech Incorporated, where I serve as CEO, has grown into a major e-commerce site dealing in various gadgets, catering to both professionals and amateurs. Our main products are computers, tablets, cell phones, and projectors. Microtech Corporation, where we currently stood, manufactured the compact projector Micro Pro, which was our concept and exclusively sold on our website. Simply put, Microtech was a subcontractor for Global Tech Incorporated. But recently, the dynamics were changing. Listen, Lauren, the man you're looking at, your former classmate, is now the president of a company with an annual turnover of $30 billion. Moreover, it's been decided that Microtech will be merged with Global Tech through an M&A. In other words, this place is also his workplace. If you don't want to ruin your marital relationship, you better take back what you said earlier and apologize to him right now. Chided by her husband, Lauren looked up at me with a miserable expression, but she wasn't the type to easily change her attitude. "You've always been the worst, but now you're even worse," she snapped. Instead of apologizing, she glared at me with an even sharper look. "Hey," she muttered, seemingly indifferent to the state of her marriage. Feeling uncomfortable, she swiftly opened a conference room door and left. Alone, Kevin, looking astonished at my reaction, muttered, "I apologize for any inconvenience. Please forgive her on my behalf." He then seemed to remember something. Suddenly, Lauren once told me, when she was drunk, that she never licks any man she targets. Getaway. She was confident that every man would fall for her. But she mentioned there was one person who never paid her any attention. Could that have been you? His question made me recall the incident at our middle school graduation. Nobody can resist Lauren, so that was about me. But knowing this fact now didn't change how I felt. I didn't understand why Lauren had developed feelings for me, and frankly, I didn't think it was necessary to know. Her kind of temperament, playing with men while juggling several at a time, was not what I liked. My disinterest must have been apparent because Kevin gave a resigned smile. "You just made a face that shows you have no interest in my wife. Lauren isn't a villain. It's like those kindergarten boys who tease the girls they like. Perhaps Lauren harbored similar feelings towards you. She wanted to prove how happy she is now, making you regret not paying attention to her." I see. The way Lauren looked at me during the bingo game and earlier was not sweet affection, but a dark mix of obsession and jealousy. It's an overcomplicated situation. It made me feel somewhat disheartened, but perhaps Kevin felt the same way. In a sense, being married to her, he might be suffering more. But maintaining his composure, he straightened up and said, "I apologize for this. I must be going." Before leaving the room, he was likely heading home to have a serious conversation with his wife. At least Kevin doesn't judge people by their surface. In the past few months, through professional interactions, I had come to understand his character. The setting sun started to glare into the meeting room. Well, time for me to head back and get to work. I'd thought of leaving Microtech Corporation a few months later. As usual, I fed my pet turtle, Buddy, before leaving home. It was a bit chilly for cycling on my road bike, but I anticipated that my metabolism would increase and warm up my body as I rode. Dressed in a breathable windbreaker, I set off for the office. It was about time for the cherry blossoms to start blooming. As I rode through the central streets of Manhattan, a large electronic advertisement caught my eye at a traffic light. Be more honest than yesterday. Apollo, newly launched last month. My company, Global Tech Inc., announced a new product, Apollo. Now prominently displayed in the electronic advertisement Apollo is not related to the Apollo space mission, but rather derives from apologies. The new product, Apollo, is a gift-type wireless earphone with a messaging feature. There are two key differences from regular wireless earphones. 1. The sender can record a message for the recipient. 2. The message doesn't automatically reach the recipient. It only plays for 30 minutes if the earphones are worn at a specified time and location. Essentially, if you don't know when and where your intended recipient will wear the earphones, your message may never be delivered. The most important thing when giving a gift is to empathize with the recipient, putting them first without being self-centered. That's why Apollo has such a specification. This inconvenient communication method, contrary to the high-tech era, piqued interest, especially among young people on social media. The Apollo wireless earphones became a hit, reflecting good sales. People like Lauren, unable to effectively convey their feelings, are plentiful in this world. Though I will never reciprocate her feelings, I hope to help those who struggle to express themselves someday. I hope that Apollo is used to convey her true feelings to someone else, not me, of course. That recipient could be anyone, her husband, family, friends, or anyone else. According to Greek mythology, Apollo is also the god of healing. I have no presumptuous intention of curing her complicated personality, but those bound by jealousy and obsession could surely be saved by embracing honesty, becoming more loved by others, and learning to love themselves. Gazing into the big black eyes of Buddy as he munched on his food, I wish for the happiness of that beautiful witch who will never appear before me again.